All right, everyone, we should finally be live. I tried to make a live stream earlier. Unfortunately, that did not work. StreamYard is having issues at the moment. In fact, it just had an issue right now and said to wait 30 to 60 seconds because of high traffic. I'm assuming that's because the service was not working, and so everyone was piling in at the same time. So we're going to be talking about a few news stories here. We've also got RCP open, and I'm wondering, please tell me if you can actually see me at the moment, because we've had some issues today with regards to the live stream. It's been a little while. Please tell me if you can actually hear me. Okay, right, okay. People can see and hear me. Okay, good. Yes, we had some issues earlier. I tried to make a live stream, and I think it was up for a while on YouTube, and could not be deleted, actually. My apologies to anyone who watched that, well, it would have been a live stream, and who donated, but I didn't get to your super chats because I wasn't able to actually see them. My apologies. This is my fault. I don't know exactly what happened with StreamYard, but it kept giving me error messages whenever I tried to go live. Like at first, everything was fine, but then as soon as I started to go live, it conked out. It stopped working completely. And it's definitely not on my end. It's definitely not browser related. It's on StreamYard's end. So I do apologize for that if that did happen to anyone. So yeah, we're going to be talking about several news stories today. I've got RCP open. We've got the Sunken ship story, which is very, very intriguing to me. Many of you are only here for politics. You probably won't find that quite as intriguing. And then Israel appears ready to attack the Iranians. That's not a good idea. We'll be talking about that too. Cooking Inferno. Hey, Cap'n. Arr. You on the run from the East India Company? If so, get some good hideouts here in New Hampshire. Yeah, I know. Fleeing to New Hampshire is something that I know too much about. Not in my personal life, but in the life of a third-party individual, actually. But I don't intend to flee. I don't need a hideout. Although it would be fun to requisition a tanker or something like that. Turn it into a pirate ship. That'd be quite fun. Sean Murphy, can you hear me, Major Tom? Yeah, the engine's on, that's for sure. Ian Angel, Sticks, love your stuff. Been watching since the Fukushima days. Yeah, I remember that and how funny that was. Well, not funny for the people in the general vicinity, but people were worried about like World War III or the world ending or something like that. I remember those 4chan threads fondly. Those were fun times, let me tell you. What do fuck? Is that galleon the one that broke apart in the back and floated away and it was rumored to have a king's ransom loaded in it? Well, by king's ransom, if you mean $16 billion worth of gold, silver, emeralds, and other gems, yeah, that's the one. It appears to have been sunk by the British back hundreds of years ago, and it's lying just off the coast of Colombia. It's a little bit too deep to be ransacked directly, but I'm sure that they'll find a way. I mean, $16 billion. Some company is probably going to send a probe down and, yeah, begin extracting the goods. One single load would justify the cost of the probe itself, and then you just make money afterwards. There are several companies that are sort of competing to extract, and they're competing with the Colombian government. Personally, I would say just give it to the goddamn Colombians. Perfectly fine. Give them the 16 billion, just as long as it's put in a museum or something like that. Matthew Charles, Stick Sex Namer. Sorry for not being able to message on X. Got a weak ban. Many such cases. Many such cases. Project H. Red Bar is watching. Haven't seen this person's content, but I've heard him heard him mentioned several times before. Sounds like some good shit. Yeah, $16 billion. This reminds me of Treasure Island. You remember when Charlton Heston in the 1991, I think it was, version of Treasure Island, which was watched last night for a good reason, says like, what was it, 16 million pounds or something like that. It'd be probably about equivalent today. There's an enormous amount of treasure on board, not to mention the archaeological remains, cannons, and, well, bodies and things like that that could be repatriated. You could fill an entire museum with the sort of things that are there. And they used to have irregularly shaped coins that they minted. Silver and gold, by the way, also copper. And they'd be degraded, but they're salvageable. They're chunks of metal, effectively, that are roughly cut into coins. And it would be funny to see, some of those in a museum. Some of them get sold to fund the expedition. And you could easily lift the whole of it back out, basically. Matthew Charles, so much for the free speech platform. There's no such thing as a free speech platform unless you're using new tech. Cooking Inferno, the Spanish crown is trying to lay claim to it as well, but since insurance was paid on the loss, the crown's contentions are nebulous in admiralty law at the moment. Yeah, it's in territorial waters off the coast of Colombia. The Spanish crown already got its money. So I would say just give it to the Colombians. Now, if another country wants to purchase some of those goods or fund an expedition or something like that, they would be, I think, non-hesitant to take the offer, honestly. Sigil. So, Spaceballs 2 is officially going ahead. Mel Brooks released a teaser. Rick Moranis is reportedly back. By the way, Mel Brooks is fucking 98. Yeah, he probably won't survive through the production of the movie at that age. I was never a fan of Spaceballs, honestly. Mel Brooks did a lot of good stuff. You've got Blazing Saddles, you've got Young Frankenstein, and so on and so on forth. Lots of good shit. I thought that Spaceballs was among the least of his creations. It's slapstick humor. It's kind of funny, but it's not as funny as some of the other shit that he made, honestly. Young Frankenstein is definitely his brainchild. What the fuck? Watch Colombia make some sort of indigenous peoples claim on the booty. I don't care if they do. It's in their territorial waters, so it's kind of self-explanatory who it belongs to. It doesn't matter that it was a Spanish ship. That would be like saying, let's say that a British ship that was sunk in the Revolutionary War within U.S. territorial waters happened to have archaeological remnants in it. Treasure, whatever it happens to be. It would be the U.S.'s. It wouldn't belong to the British. It would belong to us. So I think that the Colombians have a proper claim, actually, in this particular case. Oh yeah, History of the World movies. That would be number 3. I would say Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, History of the World Part 1. It goes in that order, as far as I'm concerned. Millerai. Horseradish is underrated, in my opinion. I agree with you, absolutely. Yeah, I've got a whole shit ton of horseradish. I mean, you can't eradicate it. Once it takes root, it's very, very difficult to actually remove it from your garden. So an entire bed has pretty much been taken up by horseradish. It won't go anywhere. It refuses to die. I'm not exactly upset about this because it's so tasty, as you've pointed out. Now people are going to quote a bunch of Mel Brooks movies, I suppose. This does not bother me, by the way. Let's get to our sponsors, though, before we get to these two news stories that I did want to cover. We've got cultivated-mind.com, where you can get mushroom pills. Yes, indeed. I take them every day, at least when I remember to take them. Unfortunately, right now, I do not have any to actually take. It's a big problem, let me tell you. They've also got doggo snacks. Yes, you can get doggy treats that are 6 times bioactivated mushroom extracts, actually. Well, dual extracted, but 6 different varieties. I think it's Rishi Shaga, Lion's Mane Turkey Tail. I can't remember exactly all 6. But basically, if you want your doggo to live longer and have a healthier coat, yeah, you should probably use those. Use code STICKS, by the way, for a discount. We have BiltongUSA.com. Again, use code STICKS. Anton is over in chat, over on Rumble, which is a good thing. It's always fun. Anton can hook you up with delicious biltong. Angus, Cabanassi, Wagyu, the whole 9 yards. Also, Vegemite, Marmite, and Bovrite. I suggest the Bovrite. Just saying. Don't tell Anton I told you that was the best one. Yeah, apparently the South Africans formulated a yeast spread that was way better than anything the British and the Australian made. I just don't want to alienate any British or Australian viewers, that's all I'm saying. Again, use code STICKS as well for a discount. And finally, jamandbean.com. That is jamnbean.com. You can get Clanker coffee. You can get other varieties of coffee, though if you got Clanker brew, why the hell would you want any of the others? Just get some Clanker coffee. Also, lots and lots of tea available as well. And again, I believe use code STICKS for a discount there. You should probably get some. Some of the teas are caffeinated, some of them aren't. All of the coffee, obviously, unless it's the dedicated decaf, which I don't personally drink decaf coffee, but it's still tasty. I did take a few sips of it when my parents were brewing it. They only use decaf coffee, and they were happy that Jam and Bean supplied some. Myself, I prefer generally the Clanker blend. Just saying, I need caffeine in my diet. If I've got biltong, caffeine, and the mushroom pills, you can survive on that for an extended period of time. The only other thing that you need is a little bit of stir fry or something like that. You need to get your vegetables in or something. Get some V8. You get your fiber. Then you have better shits. That's the way that it works. Israel appears ready to attack Iran, officials in US and Europe say. I'm concerned about this. It looks like the Israelis may actually attack Iran. I do not support war. I do not support the US getting enjoined in war. The problem is that because Israel is the golden cow, so to speak, for the United States, if Israel ends up in a war and it doesn't go well, we'll end up getting drawn into it. That's a bad thing. That sounds like a bad outcome. I know that they were talking about Iran's nuclear facilities, actually, only a few weeks ago. And that sounds like a poor idea to me. The problem is that we can't really survive such a war, not while propping up Ukraine. It's not really possible. Even the United States has its limitations. We have a limited number of resources, a limited amount of ammunition, a limited number of troops, a limited amount of money, and so forth. We can only prop up so many proxy wars at the same time. Personally, I think that this would be one that we should sit out. But it would be very difficult for a Republican administration, especially, to sit such a war out. So, we can continue funding the Ukrainians, and we can do that indefinitely. It's not necessarily a good idea, but it's possible to do. We can also defend Taiwan. I think that's a better idea because they haven't currently been physically invaded at all, and so that seems a little bit more reasonable to me. But we can't also form a third front. You can't fight a war on three fronts. Every army in the world that has tried to do that sort of thing has inevitably failed on at least one of those fronts. It's just a matter of which front you abandon first. So I don't believe in supporting the Israelis in this particular cause. If they decide to attack Iran, well, that's fine. You've done what you figured you need to do. But the United States is not going to be able to be your guarantor. We're not capable of it. We don't have the means. We don't have, especially after the military has been debilitated by the Biden administration, we simply don't have the means to prop up half the goddamn world in regards to warfare. We're not capable of doing that right now. We weren't even capable of winning both wars when it was just Iraq and Afghanistan. We kind of sort of won in Iraq. I mean, it's kind of sort of stable, although they're literally mentioned in this article, which is concerning as well. But in Afghanistan, our government eventually decided to call it quits. We're not capable of taking care of the entire world. And we need to, by the way, come to terms with that. The United States is the greatest power that this world has ever known. It's got the most sophisticated military. It's got an enormous amount of manpower. And it's funded by an enormous economic engine. That's great. Wonderful. That doesn't mean that you can go to war with everyone at the same goddamn time. It's just physically impossible to do so. Other administrations seem not to understand that. My hope is that the Trump administration sticks to its guns by not using them specifically, and that if Israel goes to war with Iran, the Trump administration says, well, you're on your own. That's what I'm hoping, basically. Tarred and feathered, Trump said again today he backs Israel. Yes, but backing a country doesn't mean you fight for them. Sigil, Bluka, Frau Bluka. Yeah, that's one of the greatest scenes in film history, by the way. I am Frau Bluka. Joe, Mexico owned the land the U.S. bought for 27 years. Yes, but it was bought. I noticed that one Mexican senator that came out and said, well, this land used to belong to us. It's ours now. First, come and take it. Good luck. Secondly, it was purchased because you lost a major war against the United States. And the U.S. was in its infancy at the time, actually, and it still kicked the shit out of you. I think Davy Crockett was involved in that war, if I remember correctly. Didn't he die at the Alamo or something? And didn't they move the Alamo to a different location? Like they moved the whole fucking thing? Something like that. Angela Sky, Clank from Hawaii. I missed LA. It's awfully quiet now. I can imagine now that the Marines are there, nobody's going to raise a problem. Lev Polyakov, yo, Sticks. I'm still editing our show, but at 8 p.m. Eastern, my episode with Gnostic Informant and Uber Boyo is premiering on Break the Rules. Anyway, I can post the link here in chat for the Clankers to join in. Sounds like fun. G-Ski. Clankers, call your senators to add Short Act to the big beautiful bill. The silencer provision passed the House. Take SBRs and SBS off the NFA. I would just say do away with the NFA, but that's not exactly pragmatic. Nathaniel Walker. But are vampires real? If so, where are they, Sticks? Well, you're looking at one right now. You wouldn't believe it, the things that I've seen. Sigil, that wasn't some Mexican senator, he's the president of the Mexican Senate. Oh, okay. Well, that makes it even more bizarre. Yeah, apparently, I guess the president of the Mexican Senate came out and showed a map of, the North American continent before the American-Mexican War, fought partially over Texas, of course, and was saying, well, this is our land now. Ha ha ha, it belongs to us. Any Mexicans that are in this area, they should be welcome. That's not the way that it works, dude. It's called right of conquest. But, I mean, he's just grandstanding, so I don't expect him to acknowledge this. Which is pretty funny. Donnelly, hey Sticks. I read yesterday that the Mexican president is an Ashkenazi Jew. Yes, indeed. I believe that the president of Mexico is indeed Jewish. I mean, her surname is not exactly Rodriguez. We'll just put that out there. It's not that I care. It's not that it matters to me. I'm just noticing things. Just saying. Now we're going to talk about something else Hispanic, by the way. The San Jose. It's a legendary ship that was sunk off the coast of Colombia long ago, back in the early 1700s, right? And they have now positively identified the remains of this ship. It has 16 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars worth of treasure aboard. That's not even mentioning the archaeological relics. That's just the gold, silver, and emeralds and shit like that. This ship is one of the most prized possible things that you could find, and they have positively identified it. Problem is that Spain claims it, the Colombians claim it, and several private companies claim it. So there's going to be an extensive lawsuit over who actually owns the remains. In my opinion, Colombia, because it is within their territorial waters, Spain already paid the policy for Colombia, well, what became Colombia anyway, and so forth. It is my opinion that Colombia should retain the remains. That should be contingent, however, on understanding that if a U.S. or foreign-based firm is extracting the materials from it, they should have the right to requisition at least enough to cover their expenses and probably more. This will not be difficult because in one go, a probe going down and gobbling up 500 pounds worth of gold or something like that is easily going to more than recoup the expenses. Paying for the ship and its passengers and crew and so forth for like the next 2 fucking years, because gold is quite valuable. Imagine what one of those emeralds are worth now. Probably, I don't know, maybe $1 million or something like that. I'm sure that a robotic probe is capable of bringing up many times more than the cost of actually sending it down. Or deploying the ship. As long as the Colombian government is willing to be amenable to these interests, these companies should say, well, we'll do it, and then they can compete for the cost. It's as simple as that. It's a free market economy, right? But Colombia should be allowed to requisition the goods. Spain has no real claim to these goods at all. Because, yeah, it was your Spanish vessel. It was sunk in combat in territorial waters, which you willfully ceded to the nation of Colombia. Well, then where's your claim? You don't own that water. It's not in international waters. If it were 10 miles further out, then you could say, well, it's ours. That would make sense. But it's within 2 miles of the edge of Colombia. So I believe that it is fundamentally theirs. Opinionated Junkie, Israel might attack Iran. Thoughts? Already talked about that. My thoughts are that it would be a disaster, it would be terrible, and we should stay out of it, absolutely. The problem is that it would be very, very difficult for a U.S. administration to stay out of such a fray. It would be exceptionally difficult for the U.S., assuming that Iran retaliated successfully and attacked Israel directly and that things got bad. It would be very, very difficult for the U.S. to stay out of the war because of the position of the Uniparty with regards to Israel. It'd be very, very difficult. I'm hoping that that doesn't happen. You know, in some ways it'd be like, hey, I can play Fallout real life, which is probably what would happen. But I would rather not see several billion people incinerated in nuclear war or killed by biological weapons. Just saying, I'm not genocidal. I know that some of the Unipartists are, though. Sigil, stop noticing things. Yeah, I've noticed a few things lately. Cam 2425 IA, that buys a lot of Colombian Bam Bam. Raider, it is the San Jose. That is the name of the wreck. I mean, 16 billion is nothing to shake a stick at. But if it's only 2 miles offshore, technically speaking, Colombia owns those waters. They are territorial waters. So I don't see how anyone else can lay a claim to it. Colombia should cooperate with any firm that's willing to extract the goods and give them a share, but they don't have to give them all of it. But now you've got 4 different parties that are actually vying for the contents, including the Spaniards, which is funny because it has nothing to do with Spain. Taco Woman Sandy Ravage, walk this way. This way. Very Angry Citizen. Hey Sticks, I'm a big fan. I love the hat, bro. Keep being yourself, my brother. If you're ever in western West Virginia, you've always got a place to rest your head. I need you to bring a second hat. I like that. Pixie, what does your amulet mean? Thank you for your work. This is a Stolas amulet. This is the symbol of the Archduke of Hell, Stolas, my personal bestie. The funny thing is people think I'm joking when I say such things. So yeah, the San Jose has been positively identified. Yes, indeed. 16 billion. That's a lot of gold, silver, and emeralds now, isn't it? Also, they've got cannons aboard, and cannonballs, and skeletons, of course. Those are worth a little bit on the black market, by the way. Cooking Inferno, specializing in admiralty and law. School, your answers aren't that simple, especially in the case of wrecks off former colonial possessions. Well, possession is 9/10 of the law in such cases as well. So I don't think that Spain is going to invade Colombia to try to take over a sunken shipwreck that they cannot directly even access. It's in too deep of water for humans to go down there and extract the materials that are there. Since that's not possible, Colombia is more likely to partner with one of these groups, fund them, and say, look, you take a share, repay the funding, we're going to take, most of the share, of course, because it's in our territorial waters, but at the same time, you'll get a cut. And I don't think that modern admiralty law would apply to something that sunk back in the early 1700s. I don't think that's really applicable. I might be wrong. You can correct me if I am. But I don't think that it would apply to something that sunk in, 1708 or something like that? That's quite some time ago. That's like saying that a family today seeks damages for the injuries done to their relative in the Revolutionary War, effectively. We've also got other news stories. Sorry, the trees are still fucking. Art of the trade deal with China. How admin got it done. Yes, I liked this one very, very much. Trade deals are being struck with China, and Donald Trump got it done specifically by hardballing them. This is literally the only way in which it works. If you're going to perform diplomacy with countries that are outside of the Western sphere, you have to be tough. You can't be like, if you go to France and you're trying to do a deal, you shake hands, you have some wine, you have a little foie gras or something like that. Maybe you have some snails, although I'm never eating them again. Escargot is not going to agree with me. But you eat the snails and you hang out together, and it's very friendly, it's very familiar. That's not the way that an Asian boardroom works. It's also not the way that an Asian office works within politics. Now, Trump knows this. Biden and a lot of other politicians don't appear, they're oblivious to this fact. They don't understand that believe it or not, there's a difference between cultures. And so it becomes a problem when you're trying to conduct diplomacy. It becomes a problem specifically because if you do it the wrong way, you fuck up, and then there's no progress whatsoever. Like when Biden went to Asia, what happened? He gets the cold shoulder, effectively. When Trump goes to Asia, he takes the fore, and by the way, the legacy media was trying to crucify him over the various visits, not just China, but like when he was in Japan, and he was emptying the fish food into the koi pond, and he was doing it the right way. He knew how to do it because he's fucking been there before. He's probably fucking done that multiple times. But they have that one video of him shaking all the fish food in there while the Japanese prime minister at the time, rest in peace, by the way, good man, was, dumping it with a little scoop into the water. They didn't realize, of course, what Trump realized, which is that you're supposed to take a few ceremonial scoops and then you dump the rest in the fucking koi pond. They didn't know. They had no way of knowing because they're ignorant. Joe Biden never would know. Jesus Christ. If he went to a koi pond, he'd probably stick his cock in the koi pond, and the fish would be sucking his cock, and he would find it a great time or something like that. Angela Sky, just curious, but have you been to Hawaii before? Unfortunately, no. Though I would love to see Hawaii. Absolutely. Roasted pineapple? Yes, please. Coconuts and shit. Yeah, all of these things. A nice pork roast on the beach where it's like slow simmered the entire day while you're playing volleyball. Yeah, you can sign me up for that. Taco Woman Sandy Ravage. Funny, she doesn't look Jewish. Yeah, Shinzo Abe was a great man. Sigil, ultimate troll move. The U.S. secretly recovers the gold and puts it in Fort Knox. We show it to other countries when they want to audit their gold in the fort. That would be funny, admittedly. Lone Lotta Cap. Hardballing by continuing to admit 500,000 Chinese students after we had 2 failed Chinese biological attacks. Between that and his backtracking on deportation, he sounds like he's compromised. No. Here's the thing. I do not care if Chinese people come here to this country to study and stuff like that. I am very glad that the administration has managed to catch these attempted biological terror attacks, or at least allegedly that's what they were. I happen to agree with the summation. I have a feeling that the Fusarium and the roundworms were probably bioengineered. And just saying. I happen to agree with you on that one, at least. Sigil, Biden sticking his dick in a koi pond would have been such a power move and hilarious, would have gotten my respect. Yeah, I saw a video once, and it was just literally just on YouTube. And there was this dude, he had his dick out, and he was having a fish suck his dick. Yeah. And he had 2 other dudes with him, and I'm like, okay, this is a little bit gay, number one. Number two, what would be, I mean, he must have been blasted out of his mind to do this. Um, must have been a lifelong Democrat, actually. Mike the Wop, make some Hawaiian food and film it for the fans before I get mad. I don't know how to cook any Hawaiian dishes. Yeah, there was a dude, literally, he was fucking the fish's mouth. Again, I was like, what the fuck am I watching? It was posted on 4chan. There was a link from YouTube. This was long, long ago. And he was literally getting oral sex from a fish. And I was like, what the hell? I didn't understand it at the time, and I don't understand it now. Let's put it that way. Never been into that sort of thing. I mean, I, I'm not exactly the most normal person in the world, but that was a little bit much for me. Hashtag gone fishing. Yeah, Sigil. Yeah, one of his buddies was like, yeah, one of his buddies had the fish and was like, moving it back and forth, and it's like, hey, that's what you're into. I don't know what to tell you, my dude. It's a little bit, well, more than a little bit odd. Cooking Inferno. Do you enjoy the study of symbology? If so, what are you trying to tell us about that Amanita muscaria behind you? I do enjoy symbology. That's just a plushie, or stuffed animal, as you may call it. Toe man, it's not gay, it's European. Well, I mean, I've been in Europe. I was there for a half a decade, and I never saw anyone fucking a